All right, let's talk about from an economic standpoint what this could potentially mean, and why I said this morning that I think, if anything, if I was looking at a sector to benefit from his election and the kind of the blue wave that happened, it would be the healthcare sector. And it goes back to what we talked about a few months ago when we got into Cure. Remember, we got into Cure at 70 something. It's up pretty big. It's a leveraged healthcare stocks. NYC mayoral election. I am not going to tell you how to feel about this. I'll tell you how I feel about it. It's none of my fucking business. Not yet, at least. What the people of New York voted is what they voted. It's their choice, not my choice. So if this is what they wanted, then they're going to get what they want. I'm actually curious. I'm actually a little kind of I wouldn't say happy, but I'm a little excited about his victory. Why? Because I want to see how it plays out. Anybody who's a Republican should be happy about it, and anybody who's a social democrat should be happy about it. And I'll tell you why. If you're a Republican and you have always stated that socialism is the downfall of America, you should be rooting for him to be elected, because now you get to show that you were right all along. This gets to prove your point. No one can say that you're making that up anymore, because you get to see a social democrat take over New York City, run that shit into the ground, and you can say, see, I told you, this is the most dangerous thing in the world. If you're a democratic socialist, you should be happy, because now you get to prove to everybody that it works perfectly. We told you socialism is the far superior, democracy is a far superior type of governance, and here we're proving it. So, in my opinion, I just want to see how it plays out. I don't fall in either one of these, but I'm curious to see how it plays out. Do I agree with everything the guy said in his platform? Absolutely fucking not. I think some of it's a bit wild, but it doesn't matter, because I'm not in New York City. Like, it doesn't matter if I agree or disagree with his policies, because he doesn't govern me. So it's not like I should be like, oh my God, people better not vote for him, or people want to vote for him, they want to vote for him. So that's how I look at it. I'm going to see how it works out. The people voted for him, just like the people that voted for Trump, and everyone said, he's crazy, he's a nut job, he's going to destroy America, and you're like, no, you just don't understand. It's the shoes on the other foot, right? Another fucking a wild card in this case. So we'll see what happens. Now, how do I think this is going to impact things? Well, first off, let me tell you a little something. Remember when Trump got elected and everyone, all these people on the left said they're moving to Canada, and people on the right laughed at them? Well, first off, they didn't fucking move to Canada. Okay, nobody fucking moved to Canada. That was just all, like, attention seeking. And people on the right laughed at him and said, oh, pussies, that's right, we don't want you anyways. Oh, you couldn't have that. Now that Mandani got elected, people on the right are saying they're moving out of New York City. People on the left are laughing. They're not moving out of New York City. Do you know how fucking expensive it is and how hard it is to sell a home to go? They're not going to move out. They're not going to move. They're not going to, oh, he won, so we're leaving. And people on the left are not laughing at them. So guess what? Here we go. Shoe on the other foot. And do you want to know why they're not leaving? Unless they already planned to? I'll tell you why. 80% of the stuff this guy wants to do will never happen. 80% of the stuff he wants to do will never happen. And I'm not doing that as like some kind of celebration. I'm just letting you know. Because a lot of the stuff he wants to do, whether you think it's the best thing in the world or the worst thing in the world, is not what he can do on his own. New York City has assemblies and districts and council people, and there is a lot going on. So he can't do a stroke of the pen and say, all right, government-funded grocery stores are going up all around. That's got to be fun. Also, in a city the size of New York, there's a lot of corruption. People aren't going to let money go out of their pockets either. However, what this is more of a sign of a shift in people's, I don't know, I don't want to say political leanings, but more so a sign that people are now actually being less apathetic and getting out and voting. I normally don't talk about who I vote for, but in 2008, I voted for President Obama. 2004, I voted for Bush. That was my first ever election. I was in the military in 2004. It turns out that when you're 20 years old, 19 years old, and you're in the military and you find out that a president is going to give you a bigger raise next year, that's the only thing you really care about. Also, the other guy said if you don't send your kids for a college education, they're going to end up in Iraq. And that wasn't a good time right after, 3 years after, 9/11. America was real patriotic to say if you don't give your kids a good college education, they're going to end up in Iraq. It wasn't a good time. That's what we did. 2008 came along. And there was a mass thing. People were tired of the the wars. They were tired of a lot of the shit that was happening. This government surveillance, the feel of the same old, the Dick Cheney thing. And there was a big groundswelling. There was a big shift. We saw the same thing happen with Trump, right? In 2016. Things shift, right? Because people feel like somebody's going to give them change, whoever political leaning you are. Now, this shows that people were big on something different, right? And a lot of it has to do with how bad the other candidates were, right? Eric Adams stuck in corruption, Cuomo corruption. Cuomo was the old guard. Adams was very unlikable. And so it was a perfect opportunity for somebody like Mondani to come in and his viral campaigning and stuff like that and give people something fresh. You know, he was for a lot of people, they felt like just regardless of his things, they know he's not going to be able to implement it, but he's a better candidate or a feeling of a candidate than the other guys, right? And so that's kind of how it went. However, he's going to get blocked on a lot of these things. So for those of you guys out there screaming that Mondani is going to turn New York City into Russia tomorrow, not going to happen, okay? This is not how politics, not how cities like that work. There's boroughs, there's money, there's police unions and stuff like that. There's a lot that's going to happen. I don't know everything that's going to happen, and I'm very curious to see how it works out because I like to see how new things happen in a bigger system just to see how it plays out. But this has got a bigger effect on the market. Why? Because 3 elections happened yesterday that were big. New York City, Virginia, and New Jersey. They all went Democrat. Now, New Jersey was pretty well known that was going to happen. New York City, it's new that a younger Democrat socialist, I shouldn't say Democrat, because Democrat socialist people will be like, we're not like the Democrats, we're not a fucking liberal, okay, went left. And the Virginia one as well. What does this mean? Remember what I told you about history. In history, most of the time, when a party has both branches of the government or all 3 houses, right? They have the executive and they have both the congressional, right? You have your reps and your Senate. Almost every time when this happens, the midterm of the first term, one of these 2 flips. Remember when I told you a few weeks ago or a few months ago that I was getting into UNH and some of the leveraged healthcare stocks because all of the Affordable Care Act subsidies that were going to these companies that's getting stripped out by the BBB, if there is a flip, that's going to get stalled. And there'll be less money moving away from that with the BBB than if they kept all 3. The chances of that happening have just gone up significantly. The chances of that have gone up significantly with these elections. It means that the MAGA movement or whatever you want to call it has lost its steam, whether it's complacency or whether they just don't believe in it, they don't like it as much. It's lost its steam. All 3 of them going. Now, like I said, New Jersey was a lock to go, almost a lock to go blue. Virginia was a little bit more overwhelmingly than people thought it would be. But it's showing that those voters are getting out and voting. And if that's the case, the chances of one of these houses flipping. Wait, why are you guys gifting subs? But yeah, so why does this matter in the thing? We talked about this morning during the morning call. Keep a close eye on healthcare stocks. Because with Mondani winning and both of these going blue, which like I said, they weren't really in doubt, but it still kind of showed that with the amount of votes that showed up, that there's a lot of voters there. The chances of this happening, and if this happens, a lot of the implementation of the BBB is going to slow down or come to a grinding halt, meaning that some of the Affordable Care Act subsidies that are going to some of these insurance companies and healthcare companies is going to be lower than anticipated from the outflow. And that could be positive for some of these companies that got absolutely beat up. So that's why I say keep a close eye. Just the initial reaction of this, that's the sector I'd be keeping an eye on. If they normally go left, is it a big of a deal if they go left again? Well, no, because remember, during the general election this past year, more counties in America shifted right than ever before. So even counties and districts that voted blue, in 2020, they voted, let's say, 70% blue and 30% red. They were shifting to like 64% to 36%, right? We saw a major shift right. And so these show that even though some of them were pretty much guessed, we saw more voters show up and a shift back a little bit. And the reason that that's indicative is that it shows that trend of shifting right has slowed or stopped or even reversed in some cases. Again, those of you guys in chat that are trying to fight me on this, like, Stocky, what do you mean? This is what it is. This isn't like a political take, like I'm happy or sad or good or bad. I'm just telling you what it is. It shows that it's either slowed down, stopped, or reversed in some areas, and that is an indicator that the chances of one of the houses of Congress flipping in the first term is higher. And as an investor or a trader, you look for those little things to see if now is the time to buy the dip or invest or maybe wait or something like that. Remember, I'm not here to be your moral authority or to tell you how to feel about things. I'm telling you how things are.
or how something is and how it could impact something based on those numbers. It's not about your feelings. You got to stop with the emotions and money. You got to stop. You're going to go your whole life messing up. How does this apply to investing? If you're a long-term investor who just dollar cost averages on the market, then it doesn't affect you in any way. If it causes the market to drop, you get to buy cheaper. If it keeps the market keep going up, then your equities are higher. What the fuck does that mean? But if you're talking about people who are looking at how this could affect, certain sectors or your healthcare or your benefits or something like that, this is how you kind of look at it. Because you got to think, look at the voting percentages in some of these counties and some of these states just a year ago versus now. Big difference. Now, obviously, general election, people are more riled up and stuff like that, but it shows that there is a shift right now. And if there is a shift now, does that translate into elections next year? And if it does, the midterms could do what they usually do, and that's flip. Remember when Obama got elected in 2008, then the Tea Party showed up, right? Flip the House. And then 2016 when Trump had all of it, then it flipped, the blue wave, whatever. It flipped. These things happen. And so it's something that you need to be aware of. Whether or not you like it or you think it's a good thing or a bad thing or you want to cry about it, that's fine. It doesn't change it.